How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews, back with a little bit of sweet growler action in the form of Bonn Brewing. It is their In Rude Health. This, my friends, is a English brown. I think they call it English brown porter. Okay, fair enough. 6%, as you can see there. I like me some Bonn. What can I say? One of my favorite breweries in general, and one of my favorite, if not favorite, breweries to drink at. They're not too far away from me. It's just got that pub game on lock, and I went down there. Today to meet up a couple of friends, my buddy Keith, my buddy James, and kind of threw back a couple of beers. And I was just about to get this. I was kind of staring at the board, and one of the workers there, bartender, beer tender, whatever you want to call him, was like, "What are you thinking about getting?" And I was like, I don't know. He's like, "What are you going home with?" Because I always go home with something. And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "Go home with the porter." Sold and sold. So I did not actually drink this while I was there because I want to go into it as fresh. Oh, Jesus Christ. Splattering everywhere. As fresh as a daisy. Jesus Christ, there's beer, like, literally everywhere now. Yeah, I was trying to be kind of fun and fancy and all that stuff, but ended up just shooting beer everywhere. Yeah, whatever. Got myself a sweet Bonn glass here. Let's see if we can wrangle this sucker in and give it a proper pour. I mean, Bonn, I've done my fair share of Bonn beers. You know, they're kind of very kind of traditional in the whole English sense of things when it comes to beers. And this one, I don't think is all that different. You're talking about an English kind of brown porter-ish kind of ale. It's going to make sense that's going to be like that, but if you see here in this sweet... I love the shape of this glass, by the way. I mean, it just looks like a porter. You know what I mean? You're talking about just under 2 fingers, infinite creamy head, super tight compact bubbles that kind of fade into kind of neuroticness and has that rich malted malt ball kind of head to it. Get a little bit of color on the edges, a little bit of rich mahogany. That'd be that. So let's see if we get a nose. Yeah, there's this nice, soft brown sugar component, like a charred brown sugar, not even burnt charred brown sugar, on top of that rich kind of chocolate malt, denser, rich kind of chocolatiness that you're getting from the malt. But there's also that added sweetness to it that comes off very much like that kind of charred kind of brown sugar. Yeah. And that's pretty much your major component there. Oddly enough, it doesn't come off as just a straight sweet beer. There has to be some kind of bittering component to it, if not a little bit kind of dryness or something like that going on with the yeast. But it has a kind of caramelized brown sugar component on top of that nice big chocolate component. But I don't get overly sweet on it either. It just smells like a really nice, well-done brown ale. Zilch when it comes to that metallic astringency I tend to get on a lot of kind of darker, lower ABV beers, especially of the English variety. So let's dive in. Cheers. That's awesome. I mean, you get that combination of that chocolate and that caramelized brown sugar is there. It's throughout the whole beer. But again, it never gets overly kind of sweet. There is a heaping helping of bitterness in here. I think you're getting a combination of both hops and like a malty, astringent malty bitterness from it too that kind of helps balance out the beer. It does come off slightly watery, a little bit watery. You know, in the grand scheme of things, you're talking about a 6% porter. In that kind of aspect, I want something to have that kind of creamy, almost like Doppelbockish kind of just rich, kind of decadent mouthfeel. It doesn't really get there. There is a creaminess to it, but it kind of finishes a little bit thin. That's probably my biggest knock on it, but that's just, again, me just kind of reaching for straws here for negatives. And I really dig it because, one, it's drinkable, and that's kind of my biggest boner I get for Bonn and their boner jams is they're drinking beers. They're beers that are meant to be drank. Whether you take them home or you sit at the brewery, which I implore you to do if you ever go there, don't go in, drink one beer, and leave. Sit there for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and just drink cask ale, drink low ABV ale, That's where this lends itself, and that is a beautiful thing. Sure, like I said, I wish the mouthfeel was a little bit bigger, but it is what it is. But it has a nice richness to it. That kind of sweet caramelized brown sugar kind of comes through. You do have that nice offsetting bitterness there, both, I believe, coming from both hops and that kind of slightly astringent kind of malt thing, and zero detection of any kind of that metallic astringency you get so often that I'm super sensitive to. So I know a lot of people aren't, but I'm super sensitive to it. So a lot of your sub 8% darker beers, porters, stouts, things like that tend to be lower ABV, that rears its head more often than not from a lot of really well respected breweries. Zilch of that going on here. So the actual just well-madeness, the cleanliness of this beer, and not to get that kind of off flavor tickles me pink. Yeah, I'd be a fan. That growler, so hard. Everything's growlers now. That growler is not going. I said it again. Jesus Christ, growler is not going to last the night. So let's cut to the chase. Is it one of the better porters, base porters, that I've had? Yes, without a doubt. It's up there. It's not tippy top, because that belongs to one brewery and one brewery only, and that belongs to Suarez Brewing. And that, whatever the name of that beer was, that was not a coffee beer, that basically drank like the best coffee beer I ever had in my life. Whatever that porter was, is King Shit a Fuck Mountain for a very long time, but this is definitely up there and super delicious. Bang and availability, I think the Go stuff is $6 to $8 for something like this. And the brewery only, obviously. I mean, they are expanding. You didn't hear it here. They are expanding, and they're going to produce more liquid, but a lot of it, most of it's going to still stay in-house. But you'd be able to get it a little bit easier, let's put it that way. Last a little bit longer, but it's brewery only, and leave you with, if you like what we like this. If you like porters, man. I mean, is this Americanized? Sure. I think that burnt brown sugar comes off a little bit bigger than your traditional porter sense. Same token goes for that bitterness, but I believe it all makes sense. It's basically taking a really well done traditional style porter, English style porter, and adding a little bit of Bonnerific twist to it. That's a fucking good thing. There you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. I've interviewed Sam from Bonn. He's the nicest guy in the history of mankind. Him and John from District 96 have to have like a cage match on who's the nicest guy in the history of mankind. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little Bonnerific and jam right now. And hope to see you next time. Cheers.